Alright, what's up, fishing family? Pay attention to this video because it may just be the most important video you watch today. Probably not, but you know what, it might just be. This video, as you can tell by the title and thumbnail of this video, is about your rod action and power and what lures to throw on what action and power. This is going to be so important. This is going to dictate how much fish you get in the boat and how much fish you land and how much fish you lose. Let's get started. So I don't exactly have an intro because I'm using a different device for this, so the intro's not in there. And you know, just don't get mad at me for it. It's not a big deal if I can't get an intro. Maybe I'll try to create an intro for just this video. But I don't know a whole lot about this just because I don't own every lure there is for bass fishing, but I know enough to give you advice on it. So let's say you're in the store and you're looking at a rod and it says, or a bait caster, and you're looking at it because, listen, spinning rods are not going to come in this action. I'm about to talk about that. If they do, they're not really bass rods. Let's say you're looking at the rod section, you see a bait caster, looking at it, and it says on the speculation, 7 foot, medium heavy power, fast action. What does that mean? This stuff can get really confusing, and a lot of people won't understand that, especially if you're new at angling, or especially if you're a new angler. Basically, I'm going to talk about the action first. What the action of your rod is, so I believe the actions can go from fast to extra fast, medium, moderate, light, extra light, and I don't know what it goes up to, but I know there's a bunch of different rod actions. But basically what your rod action is how much the tip bends down until you really can't bend it down much more, and it gets to the backbone, or before you break your rod, how much it can bend before it gets to the backbone. This rod is a medium heavy fast tip, meaning, first of all, if I could do this right, if I let it go, look how fast it returns to straight. That was like 2 seconds. 1, 2. Yeah, almost exactly 2 seconds. That goes straight really fast, meaning it's stiff. Okay, I'll get to the lure choice later. But this, let's just say, it's not a good crankbait rod. I'm probably, don't quote me that because I'm probably going to fish a crankbait on it anyway because I'm lazy because I don't want to buy a new rod right now. Anyway, so this is a fast tip, so it does not barely bends. Now there's not much difference between fast and extra fast. I would fish the same lures on them if I were you. I mean, just a little bit of difference in the bend. But especially fast, that has barely any tip in the rod. I mean, it barely bends at all throughout the blanket. It only bends about 1/4 to 1.25 throughout the whole rod. This is a 7 foot rod too. As to, let's say, and the power of your rod is how much, basically, like, whenever I'll link videos on them because I can't completely remember what the guy was saying, but I'll link videos on it below. But basically, it's how much backbone you've got in that rod, basically where that tip stops, and you have the backbone for the hook set and the fight to go on. So this is a medium heavy fast tip. This is going to be a really good light jig rod. You know, 1/2 ounce all the way down to 1/4 ounce. It's going to be a really light jig rod. Maybe you might want to go a little bit, maybe even you might even want to go to a medium heavy extra fast if you're going to throw a 1/4 ounce jig. But I'm about to order a 3/8 ounce jig today, in fact, and I'm going to throw it on this rod. This is 20-pound braided line. I don't have any fluorocarbon on me because the fluorocarbon was a mess. It's still on this rod I'm about to show you, but this rod doesn't have any fluorocarbon, and I'm just using braid on it, and that's what I'm going to fish the jigs on. But this is a really good jig, bottom bouncing bait. It's a really good, heavier moving bait. I like to throw chatterbaits, bigger spinner baits, like I said, jigs, basically all that stuff. But when you go to buy your rod, you look at the rod speculations and you think, what lures are you going to most likely throw on this? If you're going to throw a chatterbait, a spinnerbait. If you like chatterbait, spinnerbaits, if you want to throw jigs, you want to throw on bouncing baits like Texas rigs and Carolina rigs and whatnot, you're probably going to want a medium heavy fast tip. That's going to be the best for your medium heavy fast action. And the length of the rod, that's pretty much your choice. I mean, I prefer like a 7 foot and longer for my rods just because that's just how I am. You might be a little bit different, but that's what I prefer. A little bit of a longer rod, 7 foot, all the way up to 7.6. Even though I don't have 7.6 rods, unfortunately. But now, if you're gonna flip and you're gonna be using like 1.5 ounces and above tungsten weights, then you're gonna need a heavier action rod. You're gonna need at least a heavy action rod because you're gonna be flipping in that heavy cover, that Heisemann Hydrilla. Alright guys, I just wanted to explain what I was trying to say here. Basically, if you're using a lighter action rod, medium heavy and below, and you're flipping big old 2 ounce tungsten weights or 1.5 ounce tungsten weights and above, it's going to be really hard to get that fish out of the heavy cover without a heavy action rod. Because you don't got that power, you don't got that leverage to winch him out of the cover, especially if you're using anything shorter than 7.4 in rod length. But imagine a 6, 7, 8, and even above pound bass, hit your lure, set the hook, and you really can't get him out of that Heisemann, the Hydrilla or a matted grass, whatever you're fishing. Just get a heavy action rod or get something that's going to be able to winch that fish out of the heavy cover if you're going to flip, because that's extremely important. Trust me. Let's get back to the video. Maybe, I don't know. But, so let's get into lure choice. So let's say I wanted to fish this little KVD 1. There's a little bit of grass on here. Let's say I want to fish this KVD 1.5 or even the 1.0, but I'm going to go with the 1.5 because that's pretty much the small size you're going to want to go. Let's say I wanted to fish this. I have not really casted a whole lot, but all I know is that this rod is barely going to give when that fish smacks that lure. It's going to be extremely sensitive with that graphite rod, but it's not really going to give a whole lot because it's not a glass or it's a fast tip. It's going to stay straight and it's really not going to give towards that fish. You're going to lose a lot more fish doing that. Alright, I think I have to explain myself a little bit more this time, or again, but basically, imagine you got a heavy action rod, it's not really bending at all towards that fish, and you got a little tiny crankbait. Not only are you not getting any whip on the back cast, and you're not getting it out there very well, accurately or far, but when that fish goes to smack that triple, he goes to eat it, and he's running away, and he's trying to, he's finessing it, he's trying to get that treble hook out of his mouth. He's not sitting there with the lure in his mouth being lazy. He's sitting there, he's running around. He's trying to get that treble hook out of his mouth. And when your rod's not giving towards him, you're just going to lose a lot of fish because they're just going to shake it right out of their mouths. So you're going to need at least like a medium or medium moderate action or medium action, power and moderate action. But you're just going to need a good sensitive and rod that gives. It's so important because you're going to land a lot more fish if you have a rod that gives with a crankbait. However, if I were to fish a 6XD, 10XD, those bigger crankbaits, you're probably going to be fine with that. Maybe just get an extra fast tip or even a medium tip or whatever, medium moderate tip. I don't know, moderate. I'd go, if you're going to fish crankbaits, I would go with a medium heavy moderate tip. So you're going to have... Alright, so basically what I'm trying to say here is if you want a medium heavy power so you got a good backbone, just get a tip that gives a lot towards that fish so when he bites the crankbait, tip will give, but you still got that backbone. Medium heavy power, that super strong, that super strength in the rod, but you're going to have a lot of tip towards that fish when he bites the crankbait. So definitely go with a probably medium heavy moderate action. That's going to be your best cranking rod. It's probably going to be your best cranking setup in, grass and heavier cover. Now let's go over to my medium action rod. Now this, it actually just says medium action. Some of the Shakespeare rods are weird and they don't really tell you what the power of the rod is. All it says is medium action. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what the power is. I just know it's a medium action. So it's only a 6 foot. So I would prefer, if you're going to use a spinning rod, you get a longer rod. Get at least a 6, 7 foot, because you're going to be fishing drop shots and Ned rigs and whatnot. But this is a 6 foot medium action as far as I can tell rod. It says absolutely nothing about the power, which is really annoying. Shakespeare rods don't say power most of the time. I don't know why. They're just weird. I'm not a big fan of their rods just because they don't tell the action and power very well. This is a little flicker shad. Now, I really wouldn't recommend buying these at all because they are awful. They're really terrible. I don't like Berkeley baits. Or I don't like the flicker shad, my bad. They're supposed to be a crankbait. But I've heard from a lot of people that they are much better utilized as a jerkbait. Just look at that body. They have a super long, slender body, like a jerkbait. And they've got a pretty big tip. I mean, a pretty big nose. This is as it dives to like 5 feet or so. I don't know, but it'd be better used as a jerkbait, and that's a really good murky watercolor because it's really bright. And it's a little bit darker colors. But that's my medium action. You can see that bends a lot more than my medium heavy. It bends almost half, well, not half of the rod. It bends about 2/4, almost halfway the rod. It bends a lot more. And then my final rod action, and I wouldn't go a whole lot lower than this, or a whole lot lighter than this, but this is a medium light action. So it bends. See, this is the backbone right here. It bends that much for the backbone. So that is a good small crankbait rod, or a super duper finesse rod. Not drop shot or Ned rig or anything. That's a terrible Ned rig and drop shot rod. But that's a good cranking rod, treble hook lure rod. I might even fish jerkbaits on it because it has a ton of give. It's gonna let that fish really play with it, and you're gonna lose a lot less fish. But again, if you're just gonna be starting out and you just want to fish bigger lures and mooing baits and bottom bouncing baits or whatever, like jigs, go the medium heavy extra fast tip. But seriously, I promise you, the action and power your rod really matters, whether you think it or not. I'm telling you, it really, really, really matters. Yeah, that's pretty much gonna end the video for today. If you're gonna starting on a medium heavy action rod or medium heavy power fast tip, get anything like I get chatterbaits, spinnerbaits, jigs, bottom bouncing baits such as Texas rigs, Carolina rigs, wacky rigs, pretty much all that. And then if you're gonna throw anything like a crankbait or whatever, get a medium action rod. Get a medium, like I said, or I might not have said this, but if you're gonna get a crankbait rod, get at least I would recommend getting a bait cast too. Get at least a 7-foot medium moderate action rod. Make sure it's a medium power moderate action, so it's gonna give a lot when that fish bites and is playing with it, and when you're fighting it, it's gonna give a lot towards the fish. Get at least a 7-foot medium moderate action or medium power moderate action rod, and get yourself a 7-5-1 gear ratio reel, and you're gonna catch a lot of fish on a crankbait. But make sure it's a good long rod. I'm telling you, it's so crucial you get a good long rod for crankbaits. I've learned that throughout the months. But I don't like fishing crankbaits on a short rod. That's pretty much gonna end the video for today. And one thing I forgot to mention was, you can see that these treble hooks right here. If you look at this Loke 1.5 crankbait, you see those treble hooks. They basically, when they point basically straight up. You can see those treble hooks. And when you look at the flicker shads treble hooks, they don't exactly point back in. They start to curl back in a little bit. The straighter points are better for when the fish is just slapping at it, or I've snagged a lot of fish on a straight treble hook, but this is better for when the fish is just slapping at it or you're running around it. It snags the fish better, and that's really better for that. This is better for the fish is just eating it whole, and it keeps it buried in the fish a lot better. Yeah, but I mean, I don't really see a huge difference. You don't really need to. That's not a huge deal. Lure choice is really all on you, whatever you like, but make sure to match the action, your lure to the action, power your rod. It's so crucial, guys. That's gonna end the video for today. If you enjoyed this video, please do hit that thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new to my channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Give me some elbow. Feel free to comment down below any questions you have. I'll be happy to answer them.